Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, my friends, for that nice introduction, and it's time to talk some deer hunting with Mr. Larry Weissoon, who is way out far west Texas hunting with his brother. If you ever been hunting with Larry, if you haven't, you've missed a treat. You're going to go hunting with Mr. Whitetail right now. Larry, you've ready to everybody to join you in camp today, buddy?
I wish we had everybody here. I tell you what, it's been a great day, and the last several days have been absolutely fantastic in the fact that after many years of my brother and I used to hunt together, my brother Glenn and I, and finally had a chance to where he could come visit me on my lease out here in far western Texas. And it's been absolutely fantastic. And we got to thank all those folks that allow us to do this, like DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, VINEYARDMAX, which produces the finest deer bait and sells my knives. And I'll tell you, we've had the opportunity to use both of those on this trip.
Yeah.
Stealth Vision, we've been using their optics as well, and Mossberg rifles and Taurus. I've got a Taurus handgun with me that we're going to use later this afternoon when we go out and rattle again. And I will tell folks that in the western part of the state, this time frame at which we're talking, these bucks are coming to absolute horns like crazy. We've rattled up as many as 3 or 4 at a time, and just I think so far I've only rattled one time where I did not rattle in a buck. The rut's going on full swing, but the special part of this trip, as far as I was concerned, is I shot an old management 7-point and a doe, but I wanted to rattle up a buck for my brother, and I've done it in the past in South Texas, North Texas, and a few other places, but never out here in West Texas. And so the opportunity to spend time with him and talk about old times and has just been absolutely fantastic. And I'm proud to report that just within about 30 minutes before we recorded this, Glenn shot an absolutely beautiful 8-point, probably about a 6-year-old deer, which we try to target more than anything else, deer with maturity. And we're going to have to go do some skinning here in just a little bit and pull some back straps and see if we can't have some fresh back straps for supper tonight.
That's going to be a big part of the camp life, the experience is that backstrap. I guarantee you. And you
it will be.
Got that nice fire pit, folks. I get to hunt quite a few places for deer. I do, but last year I got to join Larry, Jeff Rice, our buddy, partner in crime with the TV show that we do, A Sportsman's Life. Jeff and I were invited out there by Larry to his place to take some does, and we did just that. I think we wound up with 5 deer. You killed a buck while we were there. Anyway, we had a bunch of deer meat, but I named that the second opener of deer season. And this happened. This happened in late February. You know, most places deer season is people are sitting around the fire remembering the past deer season, but in Texas, on the managed lands, through those permits, many ranches now, you can hunt right on through February. So that's what I'm looking forward to, Larry, getting back out there. I wish Glenn could I'd sure like to spend time with him, too. I wish he could be there.
I may be able to bring him back those last few days. I do want to tell you that these deer here that we're after, and we've taken now 2 bucks and a doe, and I'll take another doe or 2 before I leave.
Yeah,
they're in absolutely fantastic shape. The range conditions are out of this world good, and that's really going to make those deer. Last year when you were here, we talked about the fillery, and which is a little low-growing forb that grows pretty much throughout the western part of the state, and it is one of the finest deer browses there is when it comes to weeds, if you will, or forbs. And these deer, I've checked their rumen, they're just extended with that particular, with a fillery, and the kidneys have so much fat around them that if you use those, a lot of times biologists will look at the kidney fat as an indices as to, you know, how great the shape or what shape the deer are in. Well, these things right now look like I got about an inch of kidney fat around them. So by the time that you guys get here with the range conditions the way they are, I got a feeling they're going to be even fatter. And there is something about these deer out here in the western part of the state where they live pretty much off of weeds or forbs, if you will, that just makes them some of the best tasting deer I've ever had anywhere when it comes to whitetail deer.
You know, Larry, you had told me that, and honestly, I didn't know the fillery plant because I just didn't know it. I'd seen it many times out there. I've seen that little plant, low to the ground growing plant usually, but I really didn't know it was a great deer food. But I do remember you talking for the past several years telling me about how good tasting those deer are out there, and because you think a lot of it is their diet, you know, what they get to eat, and that fillery. So we shot, I don't know, 5 deer last year, but we took some backstrap, folks, and put it on the grill, brushed it with butter, and just cooked it till it was done for one of our evening meals. Well, I think we had sweet potatoes and canned greens or something, I forget, but that was. And then, of course, I had a couple of the deer that I got to take back, and that was, I agree with you, Larry. I mean, that's some of the best venison that I've ever eaten, and I'm looking forward to this year's. We've got a whole deer. I just wrote an article for an East Texas it's an East Texas magazine about the second opener of deer season, and I wrote the fact that it's been awful warm East Texas, and where this magazine comes out through a group of newspapers called East Texas Outdoors. But anyway. You know, it's been so warm. I've not that I won't hunt in the heat, but I'm ready to get with it because the temperature is cooling down. We've got a good strong front coming in next week, and by about the time when you hear this, the front will be on us. So it's the cooler weather. We've got a hunt coming up at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, which about the time you're hearing this, Larry and I will be up there in southeast Oklahoma. And the weather predictions, Larry, are down in the 30s and up in the 50s for the highs.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, boy, it's going to be really, really good. So my deer season, in a way, I've been hunting a couple of times, but my deer season is just kind of kicking off right now. And it's going to go through, by golly, the end of February. So you think old Luke's not fired up, you know.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the bucks are coming to horns here. When we were in East Texas not very long ago, we were rattling up bucks there, and we're going to try it up on the Choctaw as well, too, and, you know, get there and see what we can come up with. As you well know, I was in Finland as well, too, and tried to rattle up deer there. Of course, we were there a little bit early for it, but I tell you what, the rattling has really been working, and if somebody hadn't tried it, I suggest very strongly they do. And even if you don't rattle up a buck, keep trying, because sooner or later you find that buck that really wants to come and kind of see what's going on. And once you get one of those bucks coming into rattling horns, when he comes running in and he's drooling, his hair's standing on end, and his eyes are bugged and all those kind of things, you'll be hooked on it, kind of like I am as well, too.
You will. You know, I had a unique opportunity, Larry. I think I told you about it a week ago out at Lake Tawakoni. It's free-ranging.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Free-ranging deer, out there. Lots of them at Wind Point Park. It's over 200 acres of just beautiful park out there. Well, I had a little family get-together, and my plan was to get the video camera and the still camera and get out there early at the break of day and try to and see what would happen. Now, these are free-range deer. They're not, and there's no fences out there, but they have, they come off. Well, you've been there. There's so many deer. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't even know if it'd be safe. But no, it wasn't like they come storming in. It's like you're out anywhere rattling deer, but I had probably 5 or 6 bucks. None of them came in with their hair bristled up and bug-eyed staring at me, but they would, you'd see them back in there, and I'd start lightly hitting those horns, and they'd stop, and more out of curiosity, I think, than anything. But I got some good video, and which should be on maybe next week on A Sportsman's Life. 4 or 5 different bucks coming into the horns, and I wasn't hunting, Larry. I was just strictly filming. But man, I found out you can sure get some good pictures when you got that camera up to your eye, and I'm always worried about getting a shot with a rifle or a bow or something. But I had the time to devote to that, and sure was a lot of fun. And I think I got some good footage for us.
I'm glad that you did, because I've been rattling for my brother and for me both, and most of the footage that I got from anything this trip so far is after the fact footage.
It's hard to hunt. I've learned this with you years ago. One of the first experiences I had. It's hard to hunt, especially if you're hunting and filming. To me, it's a great challenge, yes, man. But
it's doable sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, you'll get that camera up and get if it's a video camera, get it rolling, get it focused where you think the action's going to be. Then you wind up shooting a deer 20 feet off to the right somewhere. Well, Larry, you and your brother, y'all, what's on the agenda for supper tonight? Do you know? Have you got plans?
I do know that for this evening, they're ribeye beef steaks.
This is the big evening then. Yeah, this is the blow.
My brother's in the cattle business, among other things. And so we've got a gentleman that was initially, he was really the first guy that leased this property years ago. So he's coming by to tell stories. And I called him and I said, what would you like to have for supper? And he said, son, I'd really like to have a ribeye steak. He said, I don't get a chance to do that very often. I said, sir, you will have a ribeye steak waiting for you when you get there.
That's good. It's not the gentleman that was the ag teacher, I think, that we met last year, is it?
No, this one, he lives in Hobbs, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But,
Yep.
But he was the guy that initially leased this property that we're on, and I think it was like 28, 29 years ago now. So,
yeah.
I'd never had a chance to I met him years and years and years ago. And so anyway, he called not too long ago and said, are you going to be at the lease anytime soon? I said, yes, sir, I'll be there with my brother, that particular day. And he said, okay. And he didn't say a whole lot. And then I said, well, would you like to come over and have supper with us that one night? Oh, my God. He said, I'd love to.
He was all over that, wasn't he? Well, you guys have a good time, Larry. Get that deer. I know what it's time to break that Larry Weissoon design signature knife out. I've yet to work on a deer with mine. I've skinned 2 hogs with it and quartered up 2 hogs with my knife. But I will remind everybody, Larry's got these knives. These are working knives. VINEYARDMAX.net is one place you can order them. VINEYARDMAX.net. Check these things out. They're just right, working knives. Larry, I just had to brag on your knives, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it. I will tell you that they work on moose and white-tailed deer for sure. I've done both of those.
You have. Well, y'all have a good time, and see you up on the Choctaw Hunting Lodge here.
See you very shortly.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years, Wind Point Park. If you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, our next guest is Mr. Paul Moore. Now, you heard Larry and I talking about the VINEYARDMAX, which is a grape-based deer attractant. It has rice bran in it and some corn chops, but the key element that brings those deer in is the scent of those grape hulls that are dried and hammer milled. It's all mixed together. Deer go crazy over it. You also heard me bragging about the Silver Stag Company. Larry Weissoon designed these knives, which are absolutely awesome. Well, I'll tell you who our guest is right now is Mr. Paul Moore. Now, Paul is the guy that originated VINEYARDMAX. He's the one that come up with the idea that, hey, deer love grapes. They love the smell of grapes. So he invented this, the VINEYARDMAX. Let's visit with Paul. He's an interesting guy. The company's headquartered down in Nacogdoches. Paul, I apologize for such a long, lengthy intro, but, we got a lot to talk about, don't we?
Yes, sir, and it is always so great to be on with you, Luke. Thank you for the opportunity again.
You betcha. Well, I want to always, in my writing for the newspapers and just about everything I've ever done, I'd like to try to connect people with fun things to do or goods or things, products and stuff that'll help them in the outdoors. That's my goal, one of my goals as an outdoor writer or whatever. But the VINEYARDMAX, friends, there's all kind of attractants, apple corn. You can buy corn with apple scented. There is something, Paul, about the scent of these grapes. It's not surprising to me, but I never, ever dreamed that you could use grape skins as a deer attractant. But you came up with that idea years back. We've talked about it on the radio before. It works. And, that's just, I guess it's, you probably honestly didn't really realize it was going to be the attractant that it is when you first started with it, did you?
No, sir, I didn't. Actually, to be real honest with you, had access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds of these grape skins. And my friend that has the winery here in Nacogdoches, Sage's Vintage Winery, custom crushing, they make wine, and it's a custom grape crushing facility. I was going to do him a favor and get all those out of his way and make flower bed mulch, but we just couldn't keep the deer out of it.
Yeah.
And then it really started resonating with me. And I know I've shared this before, but we know that deer love muscadine and Mustang grapes in the wild. I've known that. But they're always all gone by the time deer season starts.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was thinking, if there is a way that we can get these dried to a point that they won't mold and get them in a bag, we could bring the vineyard to the woods. Wouldn't that be awesome? And that was kind of what really started all my work. And I'll tell you what, hundreds and hundreds of hours have gone into the development of Vineyard Max. But like already this year, I've gotten 5 or 6 testimonies already this year of where Vineyard Max has helped our customers harvest some really, really nice bucks that they may or may not have harvested without it. But we know that these deer were eating it when these deer were harvested. And just to see the smile and the excitement on our customer's face, Luke, that's what it's all about.
You bet. Well, I have used it since last year, and I've talked about this quite a bit. Larry, we just got through visiting with Larry out in Sterling County, Sterling City, out in that part of the way far west Texas. But I was out there with him last year, and that was our first inaugural run with it. Other than playing around the house here, I'd already knew that deer were eating the daylights out of it, but that was the reason we killed our deer, the does. We baited them out of what the feeders areas where the bucks were just dominating those, and we were able to bait off, and they can smell it. Now, it's not a secret that deer will eat corn. Had those deer found corn, they'd been eating the corn. That's no revelation there. But they can't smell corn as far off as they can smell that sweet smell. You can smell this stuff when you grab a handful of it out of the bag, and when they get that scent, they will come to it. So anyway, VINEYARDMAX.net, friends. You can go there and learn more about Paul's product. He'll ship it to you, and there's a whole lot of – you can also find the dealers, can't you, Paul, there at VINEYARDMAX.net?
Yes, sir. We have our dealer locator list on there. And I also just want to add real quickly, Luke, that everything in that bag of Vineyard Max, when it hits your doorstep, it is all 100% natural. We have not put any additives in there to enhance the flavor. I mean, there's no Kool-Aid. There's nothing like that in there. It's all natural. And when you open up that bag and you smell it, you're smelling real great.
You bet. And I want to take a minute. I don't know the gentleman's name down around Nacogdoches. We're on a bunch of great radio stations, and I can't thank the stations enough for airing this show for so many years, because they can have any outdoor show they want. They've chose this one for some reason. I'm very thankful. There's a gentleman down there. I think the station's out of Center. For years the station has run our show. A friend of yours that you met down there want to say hello to him. I bet he's listening in his pickup, ready to go deer hunting somewhere down there. Paul?
Yes, Jimmy.
Jimmy, yes. Well, Jimmy, thank you and all your buddies for listening to Catfish Radio all these years. Now, I wanted to take a minute to do that. Paul, for a bunch of years, I write this outdoor column that runs in about 41 or 42 Texas newspapers scattered around all over the place. Every year at Christmas time, I write a unique gift ideas, and I've done it for years. And this is things that they won't go to a package store and reach up and grab it and get it. Gift ideas for the sportsman. I do it every year, and every year I'll add something to it. This year I'm going to add 2 more things to it. Now, you Vineyard Max, your company, y'all were very instrumental going up with Larry Weissoon to Silver Stag and getting Larry designed these knives, folks, that are deer antler handles. I've got one, and they are designed to not only skin but take apart a deer or a hog or whatever game. The blade's about, give or take, about 3 inches long. You can get it up in the, when you're working inside the cavity on a deer, it's just perfect. You have those available through VINEYARDMAX.net, don't you, Paul?
Yes, sir, we do. And our big game tagging kits and our Attractant, and we've got some custom-made grunt calls. One of the things that we want to do here at Vineyard Max is all the products that we offer. We want them to really be unique and to really have a function and to be really, really good tools for the everyday hunter. And we feel like that's the value that we bring to the industry.
You do just that. Now, let's shift gears. You mentioned the tagging kit. Okay, we're talking Christmas gifts, folks, and those sell for. We're going to describe what it does. The little tagging kit for tagging your deer. I've got one of those too, but it's everything that you wish you had after you shot your deer. Those are not expensive, but they make great Christmas gifts. Paul?
Yes, and I will tell you, just opening weekend, it was getting dark. I was filling out my tag on a buck that I'd shot out in Central Texas, Luke, and I pulled that game tagging kit out of my backpack. And it was so nice that it had that little LED light on the end of the pin, and I was able to fill out my tag and then snip the date out with the little snips that are in there, and then use the reusable zip tie, and we were all legally tagged and then ready to come out of the field. That is a great, great product. And I will also say this, starting Thanksgiving all the way through the following week, all of the products that we just talked about are going to be available on our website, VINEYARDMAX.net, at a special discounted price for the holidays.
Well, Paul, I bet you we've resonated with some hunters, because everybody's ever shot a deer has looked around for a light, my pins for the last 60 years of deer hunting, my pins have never, half the time they won't right. So that alone, and that, like I say, that's a gift that I bet you a lot of people.
They're in the $20 range.
Right.
There, Luke.
Right. Yep.
With shipping and everything.
Yep.
My favorite tagging kit story was at Hunter's Extravaganza 2 years ago, and I was there and I had showed it to a lady, and we had gone through everything, and she was so intrigued by the kit. And then it got time for me to ask her for the business, and I said, "Ma'am, would you like to buy one today?" And she looked at me and she said, "Paul, no." And I'm telling you, it just let all the air out of myself. But then she turned around and said, "No, I won't take one, but I'll take 25. Every grandchild I have and everyone in our family is going to have one of these in their stocking this next year." So they're a great stocking stuffer as well.
They are, for a fact. Paul, thank you, buddy, for being with us. And
it is always so much fun, Luke, and thank you for all you do and all of the friends that you make, and just everything that you do for the outdoor industry. We appreciate it.
Well, and Merry Christmas. It's about time to start saying Merry Christmas to everybody. So, Merry Christmas to you and your family down in Nacogdoches and all of our listeners. Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, folks, we have talked a ton of hunting, and we've got some more hunting to talk in today's show. But let's do not forget about the awesome fishing up at Lake Texoma. For those of you that might not be local here in Texas listening, Texoma is on the Texas-Oklahoma border. It is the striper headquarters of the Southwest. I'll also include the Southeast. It's a natural spawn, and I have the good fortune to have a friend up there, Mr. Bill Carey, that started his business, his guide service, 40 years ago. And it's the biggest guide service on Lake Texoma, Striper Express. Bill, good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in radio land.
I bet you people are waiting all over the world with bated breath to to find out what's going on. Now you've got folks. Bill has a motto that he says, "Remember December." Now, December, waterfowl hunting going on. You know, deer hunting is still big guns around a lot of places. Striper fishing up on Lake Texoma, yeah, you might have to dress warm. You might have to wear a T-shirt. You never know about Texas weather anymore, Bill. But December, the birds are there. Finding stripers. I think I could even find some stripers up there right now.
Yes, sir. Things are happening at Texoma. It's our second favorite month of the year. I tell people there's no doubt it's getting warmer, and I call this the peak of the fall season. And what Luke mentioned, folks, is the birds. These are seagulls, and there's just tens of thousands of them that come migrate and spend the winter with you. The best tool you can have out there fishing is a good pair of binoculars.
Yep, and spot those gulls. And you've explained to me, and I've had biologists I've talked to, how in the world do they see down in the water? But they see I think from what I think I know about this, those gulls see that surface, diffused surface water, kind of ripples maybe. They're probably not looking at a shad or a million shad. It's the ripples. You think I'm on track? How does that work, Bill?
Pretty good. Yep. What happens, folks, is the striper is a schooling fish, and they will get these big bait balls, schools of shad, the food forage, and push them to the surface. And from an elevated site like those birds, it just looks like a bunch of sparkles in the water. And they come down and they dip those shad, and you pull up there and you get upwind of them, let them come past you. And that's what it is. It's schooling fish and schooling birds.
Like a prism, if you will, a million little prisms down in the water, shiny. Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense. But years back, they're spotting those shad. I thought, wait a minute. Those shad are not in the winter, especially. They're not really right on the surface. They're subsurface most of the time. How in the world are those birds? X-ray vision or CT scan? What's going on with this? But that does explain a lot. And then the go-to baits right now, Bill. Once you find the birds, and you guys fish for stripers so much, you kind of have an uncanny ability to know which way that school's going. I guess you just watch the birds moving off to the northeast or the southwest or whatever, and then you get ahead of them. And then what? Is the jig program the best right now?
I'll tell you what, yes, sir. Casting under those birds, like Luke said, when you're motoring towards those birds, even though they're always flying into the wind at that, just hovering and dipping, just watch which way the birds are going. The school will be going that way. Get up in front of them, and winter is different than summer. These fish are moving, but not near as fast, and you can get on a group of birds with the right wind, and depending on where you are, I've got a great story of some boys got a southeast wind, and they left the marina, and they drifted a northwest trail, and it took 4 hours to drift across the lake, and they were catching them the whole time.
Son of a gun.
It can be so good. You got to be here to believe it. It's just awesome.
Well, it's fishing. I know that, but I'll tell you what I'm excited about. On December let me look at my calendar.
5th.
December the 5th. Yeah.
Yes. Sir.
David Cotton, a good friend, and David and his daddy, Mr. Edgar. We're going to get up real early on the 5th, and we're going to be up there, and we're going to get with them. It'll be jig time. Probably prime jig time, won't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, let me tell you about the lures we use.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, folks. We use bass tackle, 15 to 20-pound test. It's a lot of open water fishing. And we use a little bit heavier jig head than bass fishing. 3/4 to 1 ounce, depending on the wind, with a 4-inch white glow. This is glows underwater, sassy shad tail, 4-inch. And one of my guys is just hooked on these 5-inchers with 1.5 ounce heads, and he likes to fish deep, and he pulls some big fish that way. So 4 to 5-inch white glow tails, and we use a lot of bass assassin, sea shad, but they both have a paddle tail on the end of it.
That paddle tail, opposed to just a straight tail, I guess it's going to move more water, create more. Is that it? Is that the reason? Sir. Sometimes they work better than others, but yes, so sir. It's moving more water, creating more disturbance.
Vibration.
Vibration. That's the word.
Now, when it gets colder in January and February, you don't need that fast paddle tail moving back and forth. So we'll go to flukes with a straight tail.
Yep. One other question that I've got for you. The last time I was up there, we did some with Little Dave. Did some topwater. Topwater bite was really, we caught our big fish on topwaters, and they were up to, I think the biggest one around 13 pounds. It was a good one. And then we got back and had used live shad on this run, but I dropped a piece of cut shad down and in the boat slip, and I caught a 45-pound blue cat. Now my question is, I don't even want to catch a 40 or 45-pound blue cat. Right now, if you use cut shad, use that. Are the smaller catfish, by smaller, I'm talking about 10 pounds or less, are they doing any good there around the marinas right now?
Yeah, what's going on, folks, is we're a pretty good-sized outfit. We got 3 stations with cleaning tables. We'll put 2 guys per table. And when they toss those carcasses back in the water, there's a 10-foot pile of carcasses underwater in front of each cleaning table. And these fish come in, and it's just a free meal. They'll stay in there and nibble on all that stuff and eat. And the largest one this week, I was there. I wish I could show it to you on a video right now. It's a 70-pounder.
Gosh, I remember where your office manager, MT there, right?
Yeah.
She caught one about that size the day before I was up there. But they're great. I mean, but we release all those big ones. I like to release those 2 to 10 pounders in the Lake Crisco. You know that. So I'll bring I've got a heavy duty rod and reel that's rigged up for that. I may just bring that and just lay it back in your rod box there somewhere to get back and drop some of those shad down, see if I can catch some eaters. Well, that's so much fun.
Well, I'm the same way you are. We pretty much know those big ones, first of all, are too magnificent to cut.
Oh,
they just are. And you don't want to eat a big catfish. You know, we grew up with old men hanging them in a tree and stuff, but those things are gone.
Exactly. I remember the flatheads, back in the day on trot lines. Oh, you hang these things up, boy, and cut the tail off. They'll bleed out, and then you soak them for salt water for about, But I will say this: some of those old guys, now we're the old guys, but some of those old guys back then knew how to do it, because I've eaten some of them big old flatheads that weighed 40, 50, 60 pounds. They were good. Well, we're getting a little off topic, but you and I always get a little off.
Well, let me tell you about the stripers.
Yep.
Last week we had a customer. First of all, gizzard shad. There's 2 types of shad. The gizzard shad are the best compared to the threadfin.
Yep.
And he put a whole 6-inch down there. And the next thing you know, he's got a fight on his hands, and it's not a catfish. It was an 18-pound striper.
Whoa.
So we started throwing jigs around the boathouse. We didn't know they were there.
Good
Fish
Lord.
10 pounds. It was incredible. He caught 18-pounder. It was bigger than anything we caught on the lake. And we were pulling 10, 15-pound fish out from under our dock.
Okay, so Striper Express, boat stalls, you come and get them. No, that's just a testament to Lake Texoma, Bill,
Oh, yes, sir.
I mean, my gosh, stripers, and it is a catfish. Well, the state record, came out of there, back years ago. Cody Mullinax up there around Hagerman, caught it off the bank, I think. Well, Bill, I will say this: people from all over can come to stay right there at the cabins within walking distance of your dock. They can do that, and it's an easy fishing trip. We live just a little bit south of Dallas, so we'll be getting up early and driving up there. But people come from all over to fish with you. StriperExpress.com, right?
Right. And Luke, we've already started our winter hours. At Thanksgiving, we board in the part at 9 to 9:30. And you're going to go out early next week because you need to do something later. But
yeah.
I tell people, no, all for the right reasons. The lake is cool. They'll bite all day. So it makes a simple drive for most, and they don't have to come spend the night because
you betcha.
9 is a piece of cake.
You bet. Well, Bill, thanks for being with us. And folks, you can Striper Express is everywhere, but a good way they have a great website, StriperExpress.com. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, AGMGlobalVision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, it is Luke Clayton, and I hope you've enjoyed our show thus far. We kind of cover the gamuts here on Catfish Radio, talking about hunting and fishing and just about anything outdoor related. But we have a little time in today's show, and I want to just visit with you. And I'm not a motivational speaker by any means, but I've been kicking around planet Earth here for almost 75 years, and I've been an outdoor writer this year for 40 years. And I did a lot of writing before that amateurishly, but I want to talk to you. I know a lot of you might be interested in outdoor writing or outdoor radio, TV. You might want to be a hunting guide. You might want to get into gunsmithing. There's a lot of things you can do in the outdoors, and a lot of things you can do as a vocation. A little history on the way I got started 40 years ago. Really, it was way before that. When I was a young teenager, 14, 15 years old, I'd go down into southeast Texas, and I would spend around Thanksgiving a week down there, sometimes a little bit longer. They let me out of school with Papa Dinkins. He owned 2,400 acres down around Hockley and Waller, down in that country. Well, I'd go down there, and I'd take 2 or 3 tablets, honestly, and I'd write down every evening what happened. It was something that was hardwired into me, and that's just a fact. I'd write 3 or 4 pages, sometimes longer, what we saw, squirrels, did I get a deer, did I see a deer, and Papa Dinkins would mail it off back home to Red River County, where I was raised, every day for the time I was down there. And it seemed a natural thing to do, and I enjoyed these amateurishly little done, they weren't articles, they were letters. Well, so I learned back in the early days that I liked writing. And in high school, I loved journalism. I've never taken a college journalism course ever. It would have benefited me years ago had I done that, but I just didn't. But I did have the, like I say, I think I was hardwired to write down outdoor stories. Now, if I were asked back then or now to write a technical piece on a rifle or whatever, I can hit the highlights, but I'm not a technical writer. So if you're interested in writing, I want you, if you're interested in becoming an outdoor writer, it's not going to happen overnight, or it did not for me. Now we've got a whole different medium. Now we have the internet, and that opens up a lot of opportunities that did not exist until a decade or two ago, really. So I started out, my family, I had a couple of lake lots, and I worked as a surveyor, running a survey crew for many years. And I was driving across the lake one Friday evening after a week of surveying, rushing to get to that lake lot, rushing to get that boat in the water, and my son and I were going to go out. He was probably about 8 or 10 years old, catch a bass. I told my wife, I said, I'm spending all my off time at the lake lot. I need to make a little extra money. And it just hit me. I thought, wait a minute. I could maybe use my, I won't say skills at the time, but my desire to write to make another second vocation. This happened 40 years ago, folks. So I got back home. I thought about it a week or so. I went to the local newspaper. It was Mesquite, Texas, Mesquite News. And I went in and talked to the editor. He said, well, what have you written? I said, well, I've written a lot, but nothing in a professional that I get paid for. And he offered me a little money to start writing an outdoor column. Well, before long, that column blossomed into 14 of their newspapers. It was Hart Hanks newspapers back in the day. So then, bingo, I was propelled to an outdoor writer for a bunch of newspapers. So I did that, and they paid me a little more money, so I was making a little money back. This was 39 years ago, something when I actually got going, actually closer to 40 when he actually gave me that first job. So anyway, it was working. It wasn't hard for me to do. I'd go out fishing or hunting with somebody, and I'd write about them and write it up, and I thought, wait a minute, this can work. So nobody ever taught me all these things. I just learned them by doing them. So I learned that I could, if these newspapers want to buy my column, maybe others will. So that's how I started. I would talk to the editor, one-on-one conversation, and I could usually tell pretty quickly if they were interested in the outdoors. If they were, and they did not have outdoors in their publication, the door was open for me. And by then, I'd learned how to put words together pretty well and describe my whatever I was trying to tell about. So that grew. And today, the column runs in 42 Texas newspapers and a bunch of online publications. So I rocked along. I'm telling you this so to help you and not to boast about what I've done. I think anybody could have accomplished this if they had had a passion for it and the desire to work at it. But anyway, so I rocked along. I said, wait a minute, if I can write for newspapers, I bet I can write for magazines, which is a whole different story. So I started contacting magazines, and I'd get an occasional interest. I was an unknown virtually. I mean, nobody knew. The editors didn't know who I was. So, Fur Fish and Game, magazines like that, and a lot of others too through the years. But there was a market there, and by then I'd learned how to write well enough to do feature articles for magazines. The only difference was they would want like 2,400 words or maybe 3,000 words and a lot of good photographs. So I learned I had to take pictures. I mean, I couldn't afford to have a photographer with me on all these little trips and hunting trips and fishing. So I became pretty proficient at not a photographer, but just shooting pictures for what I do. Never considered myself a professional photographer. I'm not. But I do know how to get pictures to run with my articles in the magazines and newspapers too, of course. So this all happened not overnight. It's by probably the first, after 10 years of this, I was pretty confident in what I was doing. I really was. And at that point, I got affiliated with the biggest Texas newspapers at the time, the Dallas Morning News, and I got a Thursday fishing tips column. And it was way more than the basic information that was there previously. None of this bass good in 10 foot of water on worms. I mean, I went in depth, and I'd pick out about 5 lakes, or 4, I think it was, each week, and I'd give an in-depth update on how, where, and when, and I learned something then. Mention the guides and give their phone number. They're giving information, so that's one thing that makes the outdoor press work. Nobody wants to read about Luke Clayton catching a catfish, really. I mean, maybe I can make it interesting enough to make it good reading on a certain topic, but interview the people that are fishing every day, mention them. That gives them the fuel to give you more information. So that's kind of how that game works. And then through the years, as I became better known, I've had opportunities. Today, I have more opportunities than I have time to cover, to be honest with you. But that's what I want to tell you. So if you've got a desire to become an outdoor writer, whatever, there's no formula, I promise you this, other than hard work and just doing it. You'll have a lot more people in the beginning I've had editors tell me to read these 2 books and then come back and write another story back years ago, and I didn't let that knock the wind out of my sails. I knew that I had something in me that could get it done. So finally I covered the outdoors for the Texas Almanac. I mean, I've had some pretty good prestigious writing assignments through the years. I've written 1, 2, 3 books and co-authored with Larry Weissoon, Larry has become a great friend. There's another thing I'll bring up. I've had some wonderful best friends in the outdoors that were accomplished writers, journalists, TV people. Bob Hood was the outdoor editor for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram for years. Bob helped me tremendously. He passed away about, 7 years ago or 8, something like that. Bob was my best buddy. Larry Weissoon, who's been on this radio show with us for 17 years every week. Larry's helped me tremendously, and I've always tried to reciprocate and do what I can to help Larry with all of the things that he does. But if you can find a mentor or just a good friend I don't care if whatever you're doing. You could be a guide, want to be a hunting guide, which I've done. Get with somebody that's experienced and let them help you get started. That will be more helpful than anything that you can learn in books. I promise you that. So I won't bore you anymore with tips. The radio started 17 years ago. This show has been going on 17 and a half years, Catfish Radio. I never thought that I could do this back in the day. As a matter of fact, it scared the heck out of me to think I'd be talking to thousands of people every week. But it just kind of morphed into what it is today. Now it's a podcast on a bunch of our fine radio stations. So if you have a passion for something, especially the outdoors, don't act on it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't just let it lie dormant. Get involved, and you can do it too. Folks, we're out of time. I hope I didn't bore you with this little speech or this little talk here, but it's coming from my heart. It's stuff that I know works, so hopefully it helps you. Hope you enjoyed all of our guests. I enjoyed everybody being here. Make sure now, next week, we're going to be right back here with you, folks, like we've done the last 17 and a half years. So already looking forward to it. Be safe in the outdoors. If you're a deer hunter, It is our time of the year, folks. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, two awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.